Back in 2011, Nintendo revisited the 1998 N64 classic Ocarina of Time with an enhanced re-release for the just-released 3DS handheld. This was followed up by speculation that the other N64 Zelda installment, Majora's Mask, would be the next to receive a facelift. After countless teases and rumors, Majora's Mask 3D is finally upon us. Unlike its predecessor, the game didn't just get a visual makeover with a few small tweaks. Instead, Majora's Mask 3D is more of a remake than a remaster, with significant parts of the game altered, for better or worse. The visual update is a superb effort from top to bottom. The once barren-looking Termina field is now densely populated with vegetation and other dressings, while other areas received just as much love and care. Character and enemy animations are more fluid, and once hideous texture work now looks much improved. Putting a cherry on top is the slightly enhanced soundtrack, which tastefully updates the classic melodies for the better. It's just a shame that the most impressive track is withheld until the final credit sequence, teasing us once again with what could have been, courtesy of a fully orchestrated soundtrack. Other changes also improve the experience. No longer will you have to scour internet forums or guides to keep track of all the game's activities. Link obtains a bomber's notebook that automatically adds new entries upon meeting specific NPCs, and allows you to track each individual quest line's progress in detail. You can even set an alarm clock to go off, reminding you of impending important events that you might otherwise miss. It's definitely the most welcome change, reliving some of the original version's abstruse nature. Some smaller changes are carried over from Ocarina of Time 3D, like switching out items on the fly via the touchscreen or pulling up ocarina melodies while playing if you're having difficulty memorizing them. Others are specific to Majora's Mask 3D, like being able to aim with more precision while shooting bubbles in first person as a Deku Scrub, or being able to warp ahead to any specific hour of the current day using the Song of Double Time, instead of warping ahead by a fixed amount of time. If it were just these small changes, coupled with the enhanced Bomber's Notebook functionality, this would be the definitive version of the game. However, not all changes were for the better. One of the more controversial revisions is to the save system. Due to the memory limitations of the Nintendo 64, there was no way to hard save at any point in the game. Instead, players had to find owl statues that granted them a temporary save point. Once you loaded the save back up, it would be erased. The only way to hard save was to play the Song of Time and warp back to the start of the game's infamous 3-day cycle. In Majora's Mask 3D, there are no temporary saves. There are now more permanent save points. Too many, in fact. Part of what made Majora's Mask so great on its first playthrough was the sense of tension added by the time mechanic. It might have been frustrating at times, but the game was designed in such a way that the world of Termina was always in motion. It gave the world a sense of feeling alive, more so than any other game in the Zelda series. By removing a key component that contributed to this feeling of a world in motion, much of the tension felt in the original version is lost. It makes Majora's Mask 3D not only a much more casual experience than its predecessor, but diminishes the original's intent. It's not the only change that's an egregious mistake. The way in which you control Link when he turns into a Goron or Zora has been butchered. While playing as a Goron, you no longer hold down a button to roll. Instead, you press a button once, and then you are permanently in the rolling state until you press the button again. Being locked into the roll state causes a lot of headaches for someone who's a veteran of the original version, and it takes a bit of time to adjust. The swimming controls when you're in Zora form are even more atrocious. Swimming in Majora's Mask wasn't perfect, but simple enough to get the job done. Now it's more complex than ever, and you'll likely shout in frustration when you find Zora Link doing inexplicable things while underwater. At the very least, Nintendo could have alleviated this issue by offering an option to toggle between the control styles, but instead you're forced to put up with the new setup. At least in this version, you can opt for manual camera control should you utilize the Circle Pad Pro or the analog nub on the new 3DS XL. This makes getting around, especially while rolling at blazing speeds as a Goron, much easier. Despite some of these missteps, Majora's Mask is an exceptional game that breaks from many of the series' established tropes to deliver something completely refreshing, akin to Link's Awakening. It was the type of Zelda game that proves you don't need Hyrule, Ganon, or the Triforce involved to have something special. The world of Termina feels alive with its many inhabitants, each with their unique storylines that tie into a larger narrative in a near-perfect fashion. There really haven't been any other Zelda games quite like Majora's Mask, making it a rare gem for the series. Though there are only 4 dungeons, the sheer amount of side quests is staggering, some of which are among the most intricate in the franchise. The clever use of masks to transform into one of 3 different characters with unique abilities is a bold move, and each new dungeon not only requires you to put your new transformation to good use, but cleverly utilizes previous masks in many of the puzzles. The boss encounters are also more challenging than those seen in Ocarina of Time, and each has been slightly revised to provide a new take, with mixed results. The other area where Majora's Mask 3D falls short of Ocarina of Time 3D is in the bonus features. Ocarina of Time 3D included Master Quest and a boss rush mode, but nothing remotely similar exists in Majora's Mask 3D. It's another missed opportunity. At its core, Majora's Mask 3D is still an amazing game, but it's impossible to overlook some of the flaws brought about by the new changes. Some of these alterations clearly improve the experience, but others diminish what could have been a superb remake. The visual overhaul is gorgeous, and the game has aged quite well to deliver a distinctly different Zelda game than what you found in Ocarina of Time. Despite some setbacks, Majora's Mask 3D is an impressive achievement, and one certainly worth the wait.